So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the day 3 of Web Technology Workshop. Hopefully, other participants will join very soon because we have still less number of participants available here in the meet. But it's time, so let's go on and continue. So let's quickly revise what we have covered in day 1 and day 2. Day 1 and day 2, we have gone for HTML, different HTML tags, and how we can cover our content in those marking tags. So day 1 was basic HTML tags, heading, paragraph, other minor tags, and all those things. Day 2, we have looked at these lists, unordered list, ordered list, definition list. Then we looked at the table, and in the second part of the day 2, we looked at the number of input fields. There are still more input fields available other than this, but because of time limitation, we were not able to cover everything. Even there are a few attributes on input fields like required, pattern, min, max, and all those things. But we were not able to cover that thing. Well, when we go for JavaScript form validations, we will look at those HTML5 attributes and all those things, right? So it's not a thing that we haven't covered or we simply left that point. If time permits, we will cover that with JavaScript also. And later on, I'll give you few references where you can refer everything or search on a internet and find out those points. But day 3 today, what we are going to cover is we want to learn CSS now. Okay, that's what our plan is. So day 3 and day 4, we want to cover cascading style sheets, CSS. Now this on a day 3 folder, I have index.html file right now, which is a simple boilerplate code, and I've populated that thing with 2 divisions. I'll explain what this is, and this is what the result we have on the browser page. Okay, so let's start with CSS, cascading style sheet. Now this is a very large domain, and it covers a number of CSS properties and possible values, which is not possible to cover in a single workshop. And even I can say that even today I'm learning CSS. I'm not the master of CSS, right? And that's so you can just imagine how vast is this topic. But when we say CSS, it's always something that we should know. We should know how we can write CSS and what are the basic properties that we can use wherever we want. And then it's just a point of imaginary thought or something like innovative thought that comes to your mind, and you try it and you achieve it. So in first part of CSS today, we are going to learn how we can write CSS, where to apply, how to apply, and how to write CSS code. And the second part of this day 3, what we'll do is we will convert our resume page that we have created in day 1 with only HTML. So we will introduce CSS in that page, and we'll try to have that resume page look much better than what it is now. So that's what our plan for today is. Starting with the basic one, CSS, cascading style sheet. It's a style sheet, which means you can apply some styling to any of the element on your page. To start with, I have one div. So this is element. Div creates a virtual division, right? And inside that div, I have one paragraph. So that paragraph you can see here on the result. Okay. And after that, I have one more div, again a virtual division on my page. And inside that division, inside that element, I have three more divisions, nested divs. But none of those divs have any content, so we are not able to see those divisions here. But if you right click and view page source, then you will have all those things like this container paragraph and then container box 1, box 2, box 3 and all those things, right? So we have all those things on the page, but it's not visible right now. Now when we apply some styling, we will be able to point out those divisions on the result later on. Okay, so that's one thing. Next, you are looking here is something like class attribute. Class equals to double quote and something. Now this is an attribute, and we have already seen how we can define attribute. It must be in a starting tag of any element. Then you go class, which is attribute equals to double quote and the value. Now value class can have anything, just like ID, identifier. Now we can have ID also. Okay, maybe first div, and so we can have ID or we can have class. Now the major difference between these two, ID, which is identifier, and that should be unique within your entire page. That's what the meaning of identifier is, using which you can identify a particular element, right? And class is something like ID, but we can have this value applied to multiple elements, like this one. I have applied container 2 times within my page. So class can be applied to multiple elements, but ID should be applied to only one element. That's what the meaning of ID and class is. But both these, ID or class, is to identify a particular element when we want to apply some kind of CSS, when we want to apply CSS to that element. Okay. So it is useful whenever we want to access element in CSS part, or if we want to access that element in JavaScript part. So these IDs and classes are useful for that purpose. Now let's talk about CSS properties. Just like attributes, we have attribute name and attribute value. Similarly, in CSS, we have a property name and a property value. So it's something like a pair of name and value, name value pair, key value pair. Now writing CSS will have some different syntax than this one. Name, then instead of equals to sign, we'll have a colon, and then the value instead of having double quote sign. Now, where should we write our styling? Where we define those properties? So there are three places where we can write CSS code. One is the inline code. Okay, just inline is CSS can be applied with style attribute. So on paragraph, I'm writing style equals to double quote. So this is one attribute on paragraph tag. But within this attribute value, so within double quote sign, I'm going to write my CSS code. So first thing, let's say we want to change the color of our text. Then color is the property, then colon sign, okay, color, colon, and then you give any, let's say, value. So color, colon, red. When I save this code, just have a look at the result here. Okay, so here you can see that your entire paragraph has become red now. Fine. So that's what the inline CSS we can apply. How we can apply inline CSS? Using style attribute on any of the element, style attribute, and at the value you write your CSS code. Now let's say if you want to apply more than one property, one is the color property, I want to change my font size also. So color colon red, then semicolon, and then you apply second property, let's say font size, font size colon, and let's say 16 pixel, and save it. Well, font size, let me increase whether it is possible or not. Yeah, by default it was 16 pixel, and now when I say 20 pixel size, then my font size has been increased a little bit, 4 pixels increment. So this is how we apply more than one properties to particular element, and this is one way of applying style sheet CSS. Style attribute and then the value, multiple value separated by semicolon sign. But if we go for this thing, then it increases the complexity of our actual code. Actually, it is merging our presentational code with the content, right? Because this is what the content actually I want to display. Then I do have some marking tags, and along with that I'm going to write CSS also. So everything is written at the same place, then complexity will be increased. So because of that reason, second way of writing CSS comes, which is you write your CSS code somewhere at the document level. Now, which CSS code will never be displayed on the browser. It will again be interpreted by the browser. So we write it in a head section. Now, this is another way of writing CSS, which is internal CSS or document CSS. Now, to do that, we can go for style tag inside head section, and we can define its type. It's not necessary, it's not mandatory, but you can define its type as a text/CSS. And in between this style tag, okay, you can write any CSS code here. But look, we were having one benefit when we were going for inline. When I write this inline CSS, it is going to apply on this p tag because I'm writing at that place only. But if I write my CSS code at some different place, then I need to say that where I should apply this CSS code, on which element I'm going to apply it, right? So for that, what we need to do is we need to have selectors. Now there are multiple selectors available. We have tag selector, so I can directly use any tag name, okay, and this is how I can write my code. Tag name, opening curly bracket, closing curly bracket, and in between these curly braces, whatever code I write, that will be applied to all these elements, div elements. So whatever divs we have, everywhere we are going to apply this thing. So that's the tag selector, okay. Then I can go for ID selector. So if I do have ID applied somewhere, then I can use that ID, okay. We can use that ID, but if we say that this is the ID, then we need to prefix our ID with hash sign. So this is ID selector. Look, this one. Now this is how you comment your CSS code. This is tag selector. This one is ID selector. Then next one we want to have a look at is the class selector. So if we have this class, applied anywhere, then we can use this class name, and class name will be prefixed with dot sign. So dot container curly bracket. So this is class selector. Now there is a universal selector also available. Star is a universal selector, and there are a few more pseudo selectors and all those things. We will look at those selectors later when it comes to use. Okay. So these are few selectors which we can use to apply anything to our code. Now universal selector, which means that it is going to apply whatever property I write here to everything. Star means everything. It is going to apply this property to each and every element of my page. So just look at this one. On the output, wherever you have this paragraph, you can see some empty space on top and left, even on the right side also. And that's because of the default margin and padding of your body. Now, if you want to remove those things, then what you can do is you can use margin property and set it 0, padding property and set it to 0. Now what exactly margin and padding is, we will see just in after a few minutes when we cover box model. But now you can see that that empty space from top left has been removed. On right side you can see those empty spaces, but that's because of this word which cannot be which you cannot fit in this space. So word wrap is enabled here. So this is universal selector. It is going to apply these properties to each and every element. Then we have a tag selector. So wherever we have a div, it is going to apply that thing, right? So now let's say if I remove this thing, if I cut this much part, then our paragraph is again black. But let's go for p tag here, tag selector p, and let me apply those things at this place. Then again we have those red fonts and bigger size. So that's the tag selector. Now just to keep this inline style sheet here, let us also have a look at span tag. As you know, span is inline element, right? So for example, if I want to change this lorem ipsum word only, then I can go for span, and on this span we can go for inline style sheet, style equals to, let's say, color blue. Then here you can see that that much part of your paragraph has become blue now. Okay, so using span you can have some inline styles, even you can have some class or ID applied on span, but I'll keep inline style sheet here just to keep you aware that this is how you can apply inline style sheet, and this is how you can apply document level style sheet. So we have universal selector, we have tag selector, then let's go for ID selector. And let me keep some paragraph at this place, P, and let me have lorem ipsum text. Okay, so now you can see we have two paragraphs. Okay, and if I use P tag selector, then it is going to apply on both paragraphs. Okay, tag selector will be applied to each and every tag matching that thing. So that's what the tag selector is. But now if I apply this ID selector, and let's say here I'm going to change my font size instead of 20 to 24, let's say. then it is going to apply on this oh, it's div, it's not a paragraph. Then instead of font size, let's say, let us apply some background color here. So background, I'm going to explain all these properties in detail after some time, but right now let us understand these selectors only. So background, and let us have some background color, somewhat darker one. Let's say 8. So now you can see that ID has been applied to first div only. So only that div has a background color of somewhat darker gray, right? And then let us apply something on a container class. And let me say that I'm going to apply even darker color than this triple A, let's say 666. It's much darker than the triple A. Okay, so let me save this thing. Now this container, you can see that you can find that container at two places. So this container second div has that darker gray color. This second container has also applied this background darker color, but it has been overwritten by this triple A color because ID selector has more precedence compared to class selector. This you should remember. ID has more importance than the class. So if same property you write on ID and class, then ID will be applied instead of applying for class. But now if I remove this thing triple A, then you'll see that both the divisions, both the divs have the same background color. But when I write something like this ID selector, then because of it has a more precedence, we have a triple A color here. So these are few selectors. So that's how we can write our CSS code on document level, and it is going to be applied within your page wherever you have those selectors like class, ID, or tag, or anything. So that's the second way of writing our CSS. And then there is a third way of writing CSS, which is the external level CSS. Now, why we need it? So when we write our CSS code within this page index.html, then it will only be applied within this page at this body section. You will not be able to apply the same look and feel to other page. Now, generally what we do is when we create a website, we have number of pages. We have more than one page. And to just have a continuity between entire website, between all the pages, what we do is we keep same font color, same background color, same header, same footer, and all those things. So if you want to keep everything same in all the page, you need to copy and paste that code. But that's just a redundancy of your code, redundant code you are writing there. So because of that reason, what we do is we write our code somewhere in the separate file, and then wherever we want to apply it, we link that file. Okay, so for that, let us create a new file now. This is a new file, something, and let us save that thing in the day3. Let me create it from this place. So on day3, at this place, I'm creating a new file. Let's say style.css. Okay, so this is how your style sheet file should be saved. Anything file name, but it must have extension .css. And in this CSS file, you can write any of your code. So we have our CSS file. So for example, let's say I want to apply this universal selector, okay, and let's say a paragraph also. These two things I want to apply in multiple pages. Then I'll cut this code and I'm going to have that code here in the style.css file. So look, when I remove that code from my page, you can see margin and padding has been again applied. So we have empty space on top and left side. And even my paragraph text is not read now because I have removed that code. Now I have that code in this style.css file and we want to apply this style on this page also. Then what we need to do is we need to link that file. In head section, we go for link tag, link. We define its relation as a style sheet. And in the href attribute, we are going to write relative path to that file, CSS file. Now currently your index.html and style.css file both are at the same folder, same level, so you can directly access this thing. But if your file is somewhere inside the subfolder, then you know how we access images. Okay, so similarly you need to go for a relative path here. Right now it is at the same folder, so we only write file name, and then when I save this thing again we'll have that result. So because this red color and margin padding 0 written in the CSS file and we link that CSS file here, we have that result. So this is the third way of writing your CSS code, and it is called external CSS. Now wherever you want to have margin padding 0 and red color font, you can link this file in all the pages wherever you want it. So if you have 10 pages, you can write this single line in all those 10 pages and you will have the same result on every page. So we have seen inline CSS, document level or internal CSS, and the external CSS with .css file. And we have seen few selectors: universal selector, ID selector, class selector, tag selector. Tag will be applied to each and every tag. Class can be applied to more than one element. ID should be applied to single element to identify uniquely. Now let's spend some time on this, whatever result we have, and let us see how we can inspect something. So when you right click on any element or anywhere on the page, you will have this inspect menu, and Control Shift I is the short key. So when you click on that, you will have this inspection panel available, where you have elements, console, sources, network, performance. So actually you can trace your entire activity on this page. Right now we'll be focusing on elements. When we work with JavaScript, we will go for console also. But let's say on this elements, on the left side you will have your entire HTML code. Okay, so this is what the HTML code we have written in our HTML file. And on the right side you will find the styles. Okay, and this is where you will find the styles that you have applied. So style.css, so you will find your file name also, and then 1 or 7, that's the line number in your file. So universal selector, we have margin and padding 0. Then P, which is a tag selector, we have color red and font size 20. If I click on this darker gray div and inspect, then it shows me that thing at this place. And on your HTML code, when you hover your cursor, you will see that it is also being highlighted on the page where that element is. Now if I click on this container div, okay, Then on the right side, you will find whatever style sheet has been applied to that container. Star, as long as it is a universal selector, it has been applied on div. And then we have a container class background 666. So this is how you can debug, or you can test your code and play with whatever thing you want. So let's say if you want to play with container class, and let's say background color instead of 6, I want to have something else. Oh, sorry. For D, let's say. So at this place, I can even play with some of the CSS properties, and I can see the result live. But remember, when you play with this inspection functionality, it is not final. It is just a local change. When you reload this page, all those settings will be removed. So you can play with whatever properties you want here, but at the end, if you finalize that thing, then copy from this place and bring that thing back to your code. Then and then it will be saved for permanent usage. Okay, so many of the times now in CSS and JavaScript, we will be using this inspection functionality of the browser. This is available in Chrome, available in Mozilla, or any modern browser. It is available. Okay. So going back to side-by-side view, and now let us cover few of the CSS properties and understand those things. Now I'll be working on external CSS only. Okay. On or let's say let's keep this thing to use in a resume page. Let's work on a document level, so need not to switch files. Yeah, so let's work on this place now. Let us start with the background. So background is to set some background of any element or body or any tag or ID or whatever you are using. So on my first div, I'm setting my background. Now what background can be? Background can be color, background can be image. Okay, so if you set color, then this is how you set color. You write your color code. Okay, you write your color code. Now you can go for hex color code, or you can go for RGB or anything else. But when you say simple background, then this is a shorthand background property where you can apply color, even you can apply image or whatever you want. But if let's say you want to be more specific, you want to go for color only, then you can use background hyphen color property, and then you can use any color, let's say red. Okay, so background hyphen color is a more specific property, whereas background is a shorthand property where you can apply color as well as image also. So let's say I want to apply color as well as image. Then to apply that image, you need to write URL function, and within that parenthesis you give a relative path to your image. Okay, relative path to your image. Now we'll apply background image in resume page, so at that time you'll see how we can do that thing. But right now let us keep only background color. Now when you go for background image, okay, then we have, along with background image, we have few more properties. Background position. So to set a position of your background image, then background repeat, whether you want to repeat your background image or not. Then background size. So what will be the size of your background image? Background clip, if you want to clip your background, cut it back, or let's say background position X. Background attachment, whether you want to make it fixed or not. Some of these background properties we will see with resume page, and for others you can always Google and test it out by yourself. always I'm saying that if you want to do something or explore something, go for MDN, MDN HTML or MDN CSS. MDN is Mozilla Developer Network. Okay, MDN Mozilla Developer Network. This is the very best online documentation whenever you want to refer something. So go for it, and you'll find whatever you want here. Okay, layout, styling text, and all those things. You can explore this thing, and you can search whatever you want. Well, coming back to this thing, so one is the background, where we can apply background color or background image. Then there are a few text properties. So for example, let's say font size we have already seen. On this ID, let's say I go for font size, and we can go for smaller, larger, medium, and all those things, or else we may go for direct pixels, so 30 pixel. Then your okay. So again, div does not have a font by default. Paragraph has a font, so inside that we have a paragraph, and paragraph has these font sizes, so it is applied. Let me remove this thing, then it will increase that thing. Okay, so coming back to this, it has been overwritten by I'm saying that font on this div should be 30 pixel, but inside that I have a paragraph, and paragraph says that not 30 pixel, 20 pixel. So that was the problem. But if I remove this 20 pixel from paragraph, then it will apply this ID 30 pixel, and we have 30 pixel size. So you can set a size maybe 30 pixel in terms of pixels, or there are a few more units of sizes like M, or let's say 2M, or maybe you can go for REM. Now this is not a point of discussing all those units right now, but M and REM, relative, REM relative, so relative to its parent, whereas M is relative to the body element. So that's how it defines the sizes. Okay, so there is a font size CSS property. There are few properties related to text. So let's say text align center, then that div will have a center aligned text. Okay, you can go for right, then it will be right aligned text. And that's why I was talking at the time of HTML, I was saying that align attribute you should not apply there, you should apply in CSS. So this is how we can align our text to center or right or whatever we want. Then there are a few text decorations, and let's say we want to have underline, so that paragraph will have an underline. If you want to have a strike through, then we don't have, maybe let's say we'll see that later. Right now let's say underline. There is a strike through available also, that will be kind of a del tag. The text decoration is there. Then there are a few more, let's say text transform, or you want to say text overflow. What will happen when text overflow your div? If you want to have some indentation, then text rendering and all those things, right? So there are a number of text related CSS properties available. Text justify is also there, and so on. So those are few properties on text. Now definitely it's we do not have that much time that we can cover each and every property right now. Here what I am going for is I'll show you how you can apply properties. Then what you can do is you can write that property, have some value, and test on your page and see what happens. Or you may go for MDN, Mozilla Developer Network documentation, and you can explore each and every property if you want to try it out. So we have seen how we can align our text, or we can have some decoration on the text, whether we want to have it or not, how we can set the size of our font, background color of something, right? That's what we have seen. Now, most important thing that I want to cover here before we move to next stage is the CSS box model. Now, when you go and inspect your any of your element, okay, let me have this full screen back, and we are inspecting our first div right now. And on the right side, when you scroll down, you will see that box model. Now, this is what the box model is. Each and every element of your page will follow this box model, and it gives you size, margin, padding, and all those values. Also, inspection will give you that thing. Now, 1600 by 74, this is the size of my content. Okay, now surrounding my content, I have a padding, and if you remember, on universal selector star, we have made padding 0. So right now I don't have any padding. Or surrounding your padding, you will have a border. So next thing we will see is a border. Right now our div does not have any border, so there is nothing on the border side. And outside of your border, you will have a margin. Okay, so this is how CSS box model works. Now we can manipulate each and everything if we want. So for example, let's say on this container div, now if I apply that on container, then it is also going to apply on the second div also. Fine. So just to understand that thing right now, let me remove this paragraph. I don't want to have that effect on that paragraph right now, so let me remove that. But we will have that container, both the containers, and we are going to apply that on a container now here. So see that thing on your container right now. If you are for a second container, then height is 0, and if you are on a first container, then height is 222 triple two, because second container does not have any content. First container does have a paragraph. Okay, so now let us apply padding. So on a container, I'm going to apply padding of 20 pixel, and let me save it. What is the padding? What is the padding? Padding is surrounding your content. So 20 pixel, okay, 20 pixel space will be there surrounding your content. On surrounding your paragraph, you will have 20 pixel on top, 20 pixel on right, 20 pixel on bottom, and 20 pixel on right, left. On all four sides, you are going to set it 20 pixel. So that's why we have some space here now. Let me have this back to left, so you can see that 20 pixel on all four sides now. Now if you want to have different values on each side, then you can apply 4 different values here. Let's say, and the sequence is a clockwise sequence. Start from a top, so top 20 pixel, then clockwise, so top, then right side 30 pixel, then bottom again 20 pixel, and then left 30 pixel, and save it. So on top and bottom we have 20 pixel, whereas on left and right we have 30 pixel padding. So if you want to have applied different values on each side, then you can even go for 4 different values, and this will be starting from top clockwise sequence. So that's what the padding is. We have applied our padding here. Now on the second container div, we do not have any content, but definitely there will be padding. So 20 pixel on top, 20 pixel on bottom, so total 40 pixel height has been generated for second division. Okay, now that is what the padding is. Now if I apply margin, okay, if I apply margin, then just like padding, we can set 4 different values for margin also. So let's say 10 pixel on top, 20 pixel on right, again 10 pixel on bottom, and 20 pixel on left. And when I save this thing, then it is going to show me the margin on all 4 sides. Top is 10, right is 20, bottom is again 10, and left is 20. So it sets the margin here. Now as you can see, background color is within your element, not outside the element, and that's why padding does have the effect of background, but margin does not have the effect of background. Margin will give you the background color of your body actually, or the parent element, right? Now just to identify how we can see this padding will have 666 color, let me go and apply some background color on paragraph, or let me bring this part in this thing only, so it should not affect any other thing when we use that file in a resume file. Okay, and we want to apply background color here, somewhat darker color, let's say 666. So other than that, let's go for 999. Not visible. 444. Yeah, so now you can see that thing. So your paragraph does have darker gray color, and your container does have AAA color here. So this outside, okay, this light gray color is for padding, and inside that you have a paragraph with darker gray color. So we have seen padding, we have seen margin, we have seen our content, and when you hover your cursor here in the box model, it will also highlight that much part. Okay, and now let's see border. So on a container, let me apply a border. I'm using shorthand properties or to apply margin, padding, and border also, right? You may have separate properties like border bottom, border top, border left, border right, then border color, border style, border size, everything. But what we'll do is we will be using shorthand properties right now. Now in that shorthand property, border, first thing you will require is the size of your border. So what size of border you want? 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 10 pixel, 50 pixel, what? So let's say right now I want 2 pixel border on the container, then space. Second value you require here is the style of your border. So whether it will be solid, dotted, okay, or groove, inset, outset. Right now I'm going for solid. And the third value you require is the color of your border. So right now let's keep it black, full black, 000. And when I save this thing, I'm going to have that border on the container. Both the container does have that 2 pixel border. Now we can increase this thing also. Instead of 2 pixel, let's increase it to 5 pixel. Then there will be 5 pixel border. Okay, on all 4 sides. Now if you want to have a border on one side only, then go for the specific border property, border left, border bottom, border right, and so on. So that's what the border is, and this is what the CSS box model we have covered. Every element will follow box model. And what is the box model? Box model contains, on the core part you have a content, surrounding your content you have a padding, surrounding your padding you have a border, and outside of the border you have margin. Now let me increase this a little bit, 10 pixel, and then instead of solid, let me say it's dotted. So my border is dotted now. Okay, I have a dotted border. But as you can see, padding does have effect at border also. So padding color you can see behind your border part. So that's actually the size of your element, and outside your element size there is a margin. Okay, so this is something you should remember. Padding will be up to the border, not outside the border, and that's what the border is. So we have seen how we can apply CSS, where to write CSS, and few basic CSS properties for setting background, changing the font size, text alignment, decorations. We have seen box model. If you want to change font, then there is a font family. You can set a font family from any of the font family you want. Let's say I want to apply this font family. So instead of default Times New Roman, I want to change it to Sig font. So let me save, and your font will be changed. Later on, we will see how we can have fonts from internet also. I'll show you that thing in the resume page. So that's it for now. Let us stop here, and let me go for any query if you have posted on the chat, and we'll have a few 1 or 2 minutes break, and then we'll jump into the resume page. Okay, so just a minute. Okay. Yeah, so Daniel is asking, can we code CSS alone and we can combine with our HTML code by calling the file? Yes, we can, using this link tag in the head section. Okay, you write your CSS code somewhere in the different file, and then you link that file to your HTML code. Then Tilahun says, tag selector is always apply for only first paragraph. No, when you say p tag, it is going to apply on the entire page. Whatever number of p paragraphs you have, it will apply on every paragraph. Okay, then another one is, can we say hash second div for second paragraph? Look, you can apply any ID. You apply second div ID to that paragraph, and then you use hash pound sign and second div. So it will be okay. Size of border will be always between padding and margin. I can take anything. No, border will always be between padding and margin, but it overlaps the padding area. So padding background color will be visible in the border itself. Okay, difference between selectors once more. Look, we have a universal selector star. It will be applied to each and every element, regardless of whether it is paragraph, division, span, anything. Star is going to be applied on anywhere, everywhere. Then we have a tag selector. Tag selector, you use tag name directly, and it is going to apply on each and every tag matching that tag name. Then we have class selector. Class can be applied for one or more elements. And we have ID selector. ID, identifier, generally it should be unique, and we apply that ID to only one element within a page. Now, I'm posting the attendance form link. So just go through that form and fill in your details. So your attendance will be taken. As always, this will be open for few minutes. So right now you go and fill that form for your attendance. Make sure you log into the institute email ID, and then you fill out this form. Okay, so even you can go and freshen up yourself for 2 minutes, and after that we are going to start working on our resume page. Right now we have gone for a very basic understanding and not attractive look and feel for our page, but next session will be more interesting, and we are going to change our CV page, which looks much more better. Well, for that I'm going to have some setups here. So by the time you get yourself fresh, let me create a new file. Okay. um, Sagni is asking what is the difference between div and section. Look, both are the elements and both will create a virtual division. Div is a tag which only creates a division. Section is also a tag which creates a division, but it has a semantic meaning. So when your page has some kind of sections, then you use this section tag. Just like in resume, we have one section related to about information, then we have another section for experience, after that we have another section for education. So to just create some kind of sections, we use section tag. It is HTML5 tag. Before HTML5, everyone was using div here, and definitely if you use div, there is no difference on the result. But we use these tags to mark our content, and for that we can say that using proper tags, proper marking on our content will be more useful for search engines also. Okay. Previous lecture, okay, you can ask your CC, class counselors, and they will share previous lecture videos also with you. And I believe your attendance will be marked, and you can find those lecture links in your student login also. Whose priority comes first, whether style sheet or, yeah, priority is inline style sheet will have the highest priority always. Then on the second level, you have internal CSS or document level CSS. and external CSS will have a least priority. Okay, so there are two different priorities. One is highest priority to inline, then document, and the least goes to external. Then another priority level is with highest priority is the ID selector, less than that class selector, and the least priority is for tag selector. Okay, well, so let's start. Let us again roll on. Now the same CV page that we have created on day one, I've brought that code in this day 3 resume file. Okay, so as you can see, this is the same result we have created on the day one. And now what we want is we want to change this CSS or this page to look somewhat better than this actually. And I'm going to quickly write those some things here. You just follow me, you just understand what I'm doing and what I'm explaining. Later on, you can work on your page also. So the first thing that we want here is we want to link our CSS file, where on a universal selector we have set margin and padding to be 0. So let's have that part here. Let us link that thing. So link and style.css. Now when I save, the left margin padding will be removed. Okay. Now every browser will have default behavior with margin and padding. So it is better to remove all those margin padding by default with universal selector, and later on you can always apply whatever margin padding you want. So that's why what we do here, margin padding 0. Then I don't want this horizontal rule. So let me remove all those horizontal rules from my page. Okay. So I remove it. And we have one more horizontal rule here. So let me remove it. Yeah. And as I said, let me tell you how we can change our font. So you can always go to Google Fonts. So fonts.google.com, and you can search any of the font that you want. This Google font library is a very large font library which you can use there. Now from this one, let's say I know that some font names you can search, but let's use Nunito, this one. Okay. So if you want to use this one, then go to that font, and it will display all the font levels: light font, italic font, then regular fonts will look like something like this, then the bold font with these numbers 600, 700 are the font weights. Okay, so these are the fonts. Now let's say if we want to use let's say I don't want all these, I just want regular fonts, so I'll select that thing, regular 400, then italic, and let's say I want 700 and 800 font weight. So I have selected those fonts. Then you'll see on the right panel whatever selection you have made, you will see that thing here, and below that you will see how you can use that font in your page. Now you can use it using link. So you copy this part, okay, and you bring it to your HTML file, and before you link your CSS file, you paste that code here. Okay, just paste that code, whatever we have brought from this page, Google page. Then you save it. Now when we save it, we have those fonts, but we haven't applied it yet. So to apply that font, what we do is we go to our CSS and let's say I want to apply my font to each and every element, then I'll go to universal selector and I'll say font family, and here I'm going to apply that font name. And if that font has not been received yet, because it is online, it requires some time to receive. And in case because of any reason, if this font is not received by the browser, then instead of that font, let's say I want to use sans serif. Now sans serif will always be available in the any of the PC. So that's how I set font family, font number 1, font number 2, and that's why it is called family. Now I haven't saved that thing. Let me come back and show you what is the yeah, I accidentally I saved that thing. So this is the result. Let me remove that and show you the result. Sorry. Yeah, this is the default font. And now if we go and apply font family, then you will see the change here. Now this is the different font now. So that's one way how you can apply Google Fonts. Okay. So that's one way, using link. Or next thing is you can import your font within CSS file. So you go to import and you copy this much part at the red sign, this line, and you can bring it to your CSS file directly. Before your universal selector, you paste that line here. Now if you do this thing, then you need not to link it. So I'll remove these two lines from this place. Okay, let me remove those lines. So I need not to link those fonts in HTML file, but what I do is I link those fonts in my CSS itself. So wherever I use this CSS, I'll have those fonts everywhere. Fine. So that's the other way. And let us save and let's go back to our page, and we have those fonts. So that's how you can use different fonts here. And let me apply some color on my page. I want to have somewhat gray color, not black but gray color. So that's what we apply everywhere. And now let us apply background on our body. Now I'm using body, so it's a tag. Okay, and let us apply background image. And if I want to have image, I should go for URL, and in that URL I'm going to access this bg.jpg file, and let me save. So we have that background image. Now that image is very much larger one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a background size, and I'm going to set it cover. So it will cover the background. Okay. Now this is Big Sur, Mac OS Big Sur desktop image. So that's what we have here. Okay. And then when I scroll this thing, okay, even my background image is scrolling. So I want to make it fixed. So I can do that thing using, let's say, background attachment. Background attachment to be fixed. Now when I do that thing, my text will be scrolled, but background image will be fixed. So that's what I do here. And let me set my font size to be around, let's say, 15 pixels. Okay, so that's what we do here right now. Okay, next thing. Now I what I want is I want everything with whatever we have, I want it to bring it in a center container. To make that change, we go to our HTML code and let us cover everything in one division, which will have container class. So I'll start my container div before header, and I'm going to close this container div at the end of my page. Okay, so I have everything inside div, and let's work on this container now in the CSS file. Now, as long as it was a class, I'm going to use this class selector. Now, with that container, let us set its width to be 80% of my entire page, and let me set its margin, or let us set its background color first. Background color to be pure white, so you can see where your container div is. And now let me set margin on top. I want to be 100 pixel, and on all other three I want it to be auto. Now when I say auto, it is going to keep your container in a center part, and from top it will leave 100 pixel space. So now we have it in a center. So if I resize my page, every time my container is going to remain in a center part. Okay, so that's one thing. Next, let's say instead of a solid color, if you want to have a gradient here, then you can go for linear gradient as a background to, let's say, bottom and right. This is the direction. Okay, to bottom right. So from top to bottom, left to right, I'm going to have gradient. And when we have a gradient, we require multiple colors. And now let us use RGBA color. So from one color to another color, I'm going to create a gradient. From pure white, now when I say RGB, it's a red, green, blue intensity, 0 to 255. 255 will be maximum intensity, pure white. And last A is for alpha. Alpha is the opacity, transparency. So from, let's say, and it will have 0 full transparent and 1 opaque. Okay, so from 0.8, so near about little transparency, from that thing I'm going to have 255, 255, 255 pure white, but near about full transparency, and let's save it. So this is what the result you have on your container now. Somewhat white color but transparent and a gradient. So on bottom you will have more transparency, but on top you have less transparency, and it has a gradient here, right? And let us set its border now. Border on all four sides, let's say 1 pixel solid, and again I'm going to have RGBA white color border, so 255, 255, 255, but transparency will be somewhat 0.5. So we'll have a white border on all four sides. Now if you don't want to have this sharp corners, okay, sharp corners on this border, then you can have a rounded border using border radius, and then maybe some pixel or m or something, let's say 0.5 m, then we have a rounded corner, as you can see here. So that's what the rounded corner we have. But if we go top, then my image is overflowing this container. And if I don't want to overflow my content, then I can say overflow hidden. So whatever thing overflows, it will be hidden. Whatever thing is outside my container, it will be hidden. So I don't see that corner of my image now. Okay. And one more thing I'm directly applying, we can have a box shadow. We haven't covered that thing right now. You can explore that thing. 10 pixel left side, 10 pixel bottom side, 50 pixel blur, and black color with some transparency. So 0, 0, 0 will give me black color, and let's say 0.6 transparency. So I'll have that drop shadow here on this div. Okay, just a little about drop shadow there. And nowadays glass morphism is in a very demand, so you can have it a glass type effect using backdrop filter, I think. Let's say backdrop filter, blur, and you can apply somewhat blur effect. So your entire div will have a blurring effect. Just focus on this pink line, background pink line, and when I save this thing, it will be blurred behind your division. So that gives you somewhat blurry effect, glass effect. And these are CSS properties, so it's something which we can explore and we can use there. Okay, so that's what the div we have created. Now let's go back to our HTML code. Now within our div we have our header. Okay, so let's work on that header part now. Header covers your image, title, and all those things, address and all those things. So let's go and use that header tag selector. We can use tag selector, or we can apply ID or class and use that thing here. Okay, header. Now within that header, let us set its background color to again something white, but some different transparency. So you'll have some kind of a division there. White with sorry, white with somewhat transparency. So you have that kind of a separation part here. Let's have 0.2 here. So you can see that separation part. Header has a darker white color, light white color, and so. And let's have a padding here on the entire heading, about 2 amps. And I want it to be everything in the center part. So this is my header. Okay. Now I want to work on this image. Then what we do is we go to our HTML part and let us apply one class on this image, or we can apply ID to identify that thing properly. And this is, let's say, display picture. So I'll use this ID in CSS. So hash display pic ID, and let us work on this display picture now. I'm going to set, let's say, a border on all 4 sides. I'm going to have 4 pixel border, solid, and I'm going to work with transparency a little bit more, working with white color, 0.4 transparency. So we have that a little bit border here. Now, let's say I want my image to be in a circle, okay? To display it in a circle, then we can have a border radius, and full circle if I want, then I can go for 50%, and then that image will be displayed in a circle part, okay? In some browsers, if your image is being displayed outside the border, then you can use overflow hidden, okay? So that's how we can have a circular image. Now, as I said, you can, instead of having this shorthand property, you can set border of different places separately. So let's say I want to set a border radius only on, let's say, top left, okay? And then let's say bottom left and bottom right. Then only on three sides, top left, bottom right, I'm setting my radius to be 50%, but not on the top right corner. So I have a right, yeah, just a bit. So on top right, I have a sharp corner. Now we can keep this. Let's say this is a design purpose. We want to follow that thing. Then let's keep it as it is. And that's what we have done on the header part, let's say. Now let's work out below the header part, and let's work on this content section now. Now we have that entire content in a main tag, right? And let's say we want to have a padding on all four sides in main. So in CSS, we'll go and set a padding on main. Let's keep around 3M padding. So we have a padding here. Within the main, we have a section, okay? And in that section, now whatever horizontal rules I have removed, let us have those separation. Instead of having horizontal rules, let us set a bottom border only. So let's say border bottom, 1 pixel size, dotted instead of having it solid, and the color will be again a white with some transparency around 2, let's say. So we have a very light border on every section here, okay? If I increase this transparency, then you will be able to see that thing here, right? So instead of having horizontal rule, you can use this thing. Now I want to have some space in between also. So let's say we can use a padding on section again, and on top and bottom I want 2M padding. On left and right it is 0. So on top and bottom we have 2M padding, whereas on right and left and right we have 0 padding. So this is what we have created till now. So that's what we work on the section part. Now within that section, within those every sections, we have h3 tag. So let's work on somewhat heading tags here, right? So we have h3, and our name is h1 and h4. So let's go to CSS, and I'm going to write that thing here, tag selector h1. Along with that, I also want to apply same property to h3. So we can use that thing with comma. We can combine multiple selectors using comma. And all headings, let's say I want all my headings to have some color, different color than gray. And I've picked that color code from this background image. So let me directly have that color code. It is something like 69007F. So we change that color of heading. Okay, all those headings have a different color code. Then I want it to be a font weight of 800 that we have selected when we downloaded the font, Google Fonts. And I want its line height. So I want some space on top and bottom after this font, top and bottom. So I'm increasing the line height using line height CSS property around 2.5 m. Okay, so we have some space in between this paragraph and a heading. So that's all about heading tag. We do have paragraph tags. So let us set line height of a paragraph also. So all my paragraph will have some space between two lines. And so अगर वो इस तरह से completely let's say हम उसको completely देख पाते हैं अच्छी तरह से, वो clumsy नहीं है, then it looks much better, right? So that's what we work out on heading and paragraphs. Now let us see what do we have more than that. So we have image, name, some addresses, we have about section, then paragraph, and then this thing. Now instead of this simple paragraph, let us use ordered list here. The companies, let us use ordered list. So on my experience, I want to have ordered list, and in that I'm going to have list item. Now this first company will be the first experience. Okay, and after that let me have another experience, the second company. I have the second experience. So we have 1 and 2, right? Because it is ordered list, we have 1 and 2 applied here. So if I say, if I want to have some left padding here, then I can apply one class or ID. Let's say ID. It is related to experience, so exp, and let's work on that ID here. On that experience, I'm going to set some maybe margin or a padding. Let's apply margin on left side only. So margin left to be maybe 2 m's roughly. I'm working around. Yeah. Oh, it's more than what we want. So let's keep it 1 m. Yeah. And now it is properly aligned with this title. Okay. So that's how we can have this 1 and 2 listing. Then we have the education here. Now if we want to keep that education part in a table, then definitely we can have a table tag here. Very quickly I'm going to have a table row, and inside I'm having table header, and there are total 3 columns. So one is the university, another one is degree, and third one is year. And below that we have 2 more rows, and each row will have 3 cells. So I'm going to have 2 rows, and then I'll keep this data inside that table. I just wanted to show you that we can use table even in our code wherever we want. It's not that you use only paragraph or something. So we have this table now. Okay. And then on the last part we have technical skills. Excuse me. On the technical skills, we can have unordered list where we can have LIs. Sorry. Let me change this paragraph or yeah, let me change this P to LI, right? And then I'm going to keep all these LIs in inside UL tag. And let us bring all these LIs inside UL. So we have this unordered list also. Now we do have time, so I want to show you something very interesting. Let us change this unordered list look and fill, and let's make it look like a bar, progress bar kind of thing, where we also apply some percentage. Power user of Excel, I have 90% skills, and Minitab I have 60% skill, and so on. So let's work on that thing, and let us apply a few CSS to make that change here. So in this one, let us have this unordered list a class or ID. Let's say ID skills. Okay, and I'm going to use this ID in CSS. Okay, so we have our skills, which refers to entire unordered list. Now I don't want to change the look and feel of unordered list, but I want to change the look and feel of list item inside that unordered list. So when I refer to this skills, it is UL. Then I make some space here, a single space, and then I write LI. Now what it means is you refer to skills. One space indicates you are going inside. So inside your skills, you have LI tag. So this is tag selector, this is ID selector, and I'm combining those things to particularly identify identify particular element. So inside skills, I have LI tag, and I'm referring that thing here. So using that thing, I'm going to change change the look and feel of my list item. Okay, let us apply its background, linear gradient, and let me bring the linear gradient from this container. The same linear gradient I'm going to apply on the list item. Okay, and this is what the effect you have when you apply that list item linear gradient. Okay, so each list item is having that gradient now. Now all list items are sticked together, so let's have a margin between those things. Let's have margin bottom to be 0.5 m. So we'll have some space between those things. I want all the corners to be rounded, so border radius to be some 20 pixel. If I go for percentage, then it will create ellipse. I don't want to create ellipse here, so I'll use pixel, which will make those corners rounded only those corners. Okay, not the entire thing. Then my text is going outside, so let me have some padding in the left side only. Padding left to be, let's say, 1 m. So my text will be pushed towards the right side. And let us set its height to be 1.3 m. So little bit I'm increasing the height. Okay, and let me change whatever goes outside of my list item. Let me say overflow hidden. So that bullet has been hidden from my list. Okay, so that's what we can change. Now what we want more is we want to have some kind of a progress, percentage per progress here. So I'm going to use a pseudo class here. Now I'll make you just aware we have few pseudo classes. So li then colon. So when you do that colon, you will have those pseudo classes before, after, then even focus, hover, and those pseudo classes you can use. So right now I'm going to use before pseudo class. This is pseudo element also. It is not there, it is not written in the HTML code, but we can access that before pseudo element and we can work on that. So in that before is a pseudo element. Until and unless you set some content, okay, it is not going to give you any effect. So I'll set some content, but I'll make it empty. I'll make it empty here. And now let us set its width to be, let's say right now 90%. Later on we will change this width. I'm going to set its height to inherit from the parent. Okay, and let's set its background color to be somewhat yellow color or so. So let me have that color code, something like FF9A00. Now still you cannot see that element here. Okay, now to make that element look, let us set its position. Now there are few positions, and tomorrow we will see what are the possible positions. Right now let me have position absolute from left. Tomorrow morning I'm going to cover position property in detail. Okay, so today let us skip just like from left its position is 0, and from top its position is 0. And yeah, let's save that thing. And one more point, content position border, and let us set its z index to be -1. This is what we have. And to have this effect available on li, we need to have position relative, and now we have that element. So as I said, I'm going to cover this position in detail. I'm going to cover this position property in detail tomorrow morning. We'll discuss that thing, but right now, so this is what we have. And even we can set a border radius on this part. So we'll have a rounded border here. So this is kind of a progress. Now, right now, what we do is we set 90% width for each li, and all these skills are having same level. Now, if I want to change that level, then even I can use variables in CSS. In my HTML, let's say on each and every li, I'm going to set inline style. And I'm going to define a variable here. Now, how to define a variable? Double hyphen and then variable value. Okay, then colon, a variable name. So double hyphen I becomes a variable, colon, and then let's say I set 90%. So this is the same thing I'm going to apply on each li, but we will change this value of I now. So CSS also gives you flexibility to change your to define a variables. So let's say first is 90%, second one is 50%, third one is 70%, fourth one is 60%, next is again 80%, 90%, 60%, and let's say 50%. So what I have done is I have defined a variable I with different values in each li. Now I'm going to use this variable in li. So let us go in CSS and use this variable now. So we go to our style, and wherever we are defining our width, instead of 90% fixed, I'm going to use that variable. So var, and inside that you define your variable I. And let us save this thing. So now we have a different width on each and every progress bar, right? So that gives you the idea of what level of skill you have. So that's how you can create your allies. Okay. So this is what the resume page we have created. We have make changes. Now very quickly I want to cover something. Right now we were working on a smaller, less width viewport. Now if I have a full width, then this is how it looks. But I don't prefer this to be like this. When I have enough width, what if I want to have this header part on the left side and the main content on the right side? What if we want to do that thing? So we can do that thing. You go to inspect, and here you will find the tool to toggle the responsive view, and where you can have a look at the responsive view of any phone or simple responsive, and you can see what width you are right now. So let's say on 400 width, my look and feel is proper. I don't have any problem. But when I go up to some level, let's say around, let's say 800, okay, around 800, I want my image to be on the left side and this text to be on the right side. I want this to be side by side. So let us go and work there. In our code, we are going to write media queries now. CSS media queries. Now that can be achieved with let's say @media, and I'm going to target screen media, and I'm going to define some width and height. Okay, I'm going to define some width and height. Now if minimum height is 800 pixel, then I'm going to apply some more CSS properties here. Okay, and in that case I'm going to target my header element, and I'm going to set its display to flex. Now I'll suggest that you explore this display property, flex and display grid. But when I do this thing, display flex, let us have a look at what happens. Just let me check out what is there. Yeah, in my header I have number of elements. First of all, let us have a div which contains your image. Okay, and we have another div which contains the everything else, your name, post, and address, all those things. And then we are going to make this header to display flex, and minimum height should be 800 pixel. It is not being affected. Let me check what happens there. Oh, not height, sorry, width. My bad, I'm sorry. Minimum width to be 800 pixel. Then it goes side by side. Okay, when you have less than 800 pixels, it will be up and down, but when you go for more than 800, it will be side by side. Now when you have side by side, then definitely what we require is text align to be left, right? And let's keep some space between this. So on this div, let me have a class title, and let me use that title class here to have let's say margin left to be 2m. So now we have some space in between, right? So from 800 to, let's say, 800 to 1000, I want to follow this thing. So minimum width is 800, and let's say maximum width is 1000. So from 800 to 1000, I'll follow this thing. But let's say after that, more than 1000 width if you have, so we can define as many media queries as we want. So if minimum width is 1000 and more, then I'm going to do something else here, and let's have a container display flex. Okay, then you'll have this thing. It goes to left side, right? And in that place, let us have a container width. Let's maximum width to be, let's say, 250 pixel, not more than that. Okay. Oh, not a container, my bad. Header only. Whatever header we have, for that header I'm going to have 250. So this goes to left side now, and we have made a responsive page. So if I go inspect, now more than 1,000 pixel width, then side by side. When I go less than 1000, my header will be on top. Till 800, left side image, right side text, and below 800 on top, I'll have my header below that. So we have made a responsive resume page, right? Now it's time, so need to stop here. I wanted to cover a few more transitions here, but that we will see tomorrow morning. So on the 4th day of our workshop, we are going to have some transitions. We will cover a few social icons here. We will cover CSS positioning system. And then in the second part of tomorrow's session, what we'll do is we will directly download an entire template, website template, and then we'll try to modify that template as per our need and as per our website content. Now that's what many of the developers do. If you have free template available, then definitely you can use it, and then you can make some changes as per your requirement. If you don't want to do that, then this is how you can create your entire website from the scratch, right? So that's all from my side right now. Let me go to chat, and if you have any kind of queries, Let us solve those queries. So priority we have covered. Google form link I have already sent. Background, can we fix the image also? Yes, we have done that part, Divyansh. Background attachment, you can go for fix. Linear gradient, once again, please, did not understood. Okay, look, in linear gradient, first parameter is from where to where you want to go. So from always, we only define two. So to bottom and right. So top to bottom, left to right. That's the direction. Then the second parameter will be the starting color, and third parameter will be the ending color. So from this color to this color, you create a gradient. Z index. Look, if you are fond of mathematics and the dimensions x, y, and z, x is a horizontal, y is vertical, and z is the depth. So I want to bring something backward or forward, then I can use z index. Okay. Then below is line. So how to delete line? Technical skills. Yeah, on the last, there are a few more, just like this before pseudocode, there are a few more last child, first child pseudo elements which we can use and remove the last border if we want. How can we fix the image? How can we fix the image like background? I asked, oh, fix the image in like background. I don't understand, Divyansh. You can work on your page and send me your page in a mail, and we'll discuss on a mail then. Okay, Krish, I'll also explain something related to Bootstrap because we have a limited time, so we won't be able to cover entire Bootstrap. But just remind me in the break. I'll explain the Bootstrap, what it is and how you can use it. You can use pictures in, so images in a background, or you can use pictures or images as a foreground. So img tag you can use to load some image as a foreground. Yeah, we haven't seen how to create navigation bar. It requires minimum 20 to 30 minutes, so it's not possible to cover right now. But tomorrow when I show you, when I see explain Bootstrap, you will have a ready-made navigation available, so need not to create at our place. We can directly use navigation bar from those kind of frameworks. Look, there is no limitation on any section, number of sections. There is no limitation on any tag you want. You can use as many times you can. Okay. So there is no limitation on using section tag. Okay. Abba is asking about dollar skills before. Look, hash skills, that's the ID applied on UL, unordered list. Then space means within that unordered list, I'm going to refer LI. Within UL, I'm referring LI. So my list items. And then double colon before is a pseudo element, which we haven't created in HTML, but we can use it in CSS part. Okay. Output, this is what the output we have. Okay, so I believe I've addressed all the queries which we have in a chat box right now, and this is what we have created in a second part of of our page of our session. Thank you, everyone. 2 days video has already been uploaded on the YouTube channel, and you can receive that link from your class counselor. Today's video will also be uploaded just in 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll share that link also. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Let's conclude this session here, and hope to see you in tomorrow's session, same time, morning, 9 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.